Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so thrilled to have David Key with me here today. David is an Amazon #1 best-selling author and award-winning coach dedicated to helping people realize their goals, both personally and professionally, and to achieve a more rewarding and satisfying life. The insights he gained since stumbling across the Three Principles 7 years ago have transformed David's life, both personally and professionally. He now spends all his time taking the message to other trainers and coaches, as well as to businesses and private individuals too. In the last few years, some 55,000 people from over 40 countries have completed one of David's award-winning coaching programs. Hi, David. I'm so glad you were finally able to make it. We've had a couple of false starts here. So
we did with that time zone issue.
I know, but that's for everybody. Those daylight saving times are a bit tricky. So anyway, it's really great to have you here. And we both mentees are the Pranskys. So I want to know how you first came across the principles.
Wow. Hey, by the way, I'm so excited to be here. I've never actually spoken to anyone live from LA.
Really? Oh.
I feel it's like, oh. Look, hey, I first came across the principles it was Michael Neal's book, actually. The first one, Inside Out Revolution. Mm-hmm. And it was 8 years ago, or seven years ago, 2013, I think it was. And I was in Rome and I was reading it. And I remember thinking, it's a nice book. Mm-hmm. But that was about it in terms of impact. And I didn't wake up at that point to this understanding. It was just quite an intellectual understanding at that point.
Wow. Now you've been a coach for a number of years, and NLP and all these different modalities. So I'm always curious, what was it about the principles that had you see something differently? Because this was you did a whole career in NLP before this, didn't you?
Yeah. I was fascinated, excuse me, with personal development back in the 1980s. Fascinated. So I've probably been a seeker since I was in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And in about 1991, I went to a stage show with a friend, a hypnosis stage show. And I was fascinated with this hypnotist because my friend Russell, who was with me at the time, he was quite shy. And that he eventually got on stage and this hypnotist did his magic. And Russell was doing things on stage and I was like, there's no way he would do that.
Wow.
So that was that was 1991. I was fascinated with the unconscious mind. I read a lot of books. I read a book by a guy called Ben Sweetland, who wrote this book in around the sort of late 60s, and it was called Grow Rich While You Sleep. Again, that was one of my first introductions to the unconscious mind. It was nothing to do with money, but it was about sort of the richness of life and that unconscious power that human beings seem to have. So that was the start of my journey. And I ended up getting into training, becoming a trainer, a master trainer of hypnosis, and running my events. I loved working in that field and with that modality. And I swore to God that I would never do anything else. Someone said, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a trainer of NLP and hypnosis. It's the best job in the world. I love it. And I can never see me doing anything else. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then at around 2013, coincidentally, I used to read a lot of books. And because I'd read Michael's book, and I think I bought Jamie Smart's book, Clarity. And again, I think I was reading them intellectually, not really listening or looking for anything in particular at this time when I went to Rome. And then coincidentally, within a matter of weeks of coming back from Rome, I discovered there was a bit of a problem going on in my marriage. Okay. So long story short, to answer your question, my marriage looked like it was about to implode at the molecular level. It was like it was going to be over. There wasn't just two of us in the relationship anymore. Now there were three people. And I didn't handle it too well emotionally. And everything that I'd been learning and teaching up until that point of time didn't seem to be working or helping me. Wow. I started to get a little bit curious. Well, actually, I didn't at that point, obviously, in hindsight and retrospect, looking back, but I was scratching my head, perplexed. Why am I feeling this emotional pain? And yet, all the manuals and everything that I studied in the previous 20 odd years didn't seem to be helping. I mean, it was helping a bit, don't get me wrong, and it was alleviating discomfort, but it was a lot of effort required. And then one of my students, her name is Nicola Bird. Okay, so Nick had done one of my trainings, NLP, Master Prac, and I phoned her and said, I'm really struggling here. I know I shouldn't be calling you to say this, but I just need a woman to speak to, you know? And she was so beautiful. And she said, you really want to get the book by George Pransky called The Relationship Handbook. So wait for it. I read that one too. And it was a nice book. But again, it was one of those I just put to the side. And again, 3 books and nothing had shifted. I was still married, but it wasn't looking good. And then I phoned Nick again and she said, you're going to be okay. And I was like, it doesn't feel that way. But she said, you're going to be okay. And I could feel that. I was hopeful a little bit, but not terribly. I was a bit of in a bit of a spin, not knowing really which way to go. I've got a couple of kids, wife, second marriage. I'm thinking this is it, And she called me up about a week later and said, oh, there's a course that George Pransky is running online. It's called an insight course. It's about the principles. You might want to do it. I was like, well, divorce is expensive, so I might as well sign up. And I signed up, Del. And this is where it gets more interesting, I think. So I've been in teaching, coaching, training, personal development, hypnosis, and so many different modalities, trying to find the answer to happiness. And I'm watching week 2 of this program. Each week was just 1 hour of videos, little metaphor here and there. And I watched week 1. Week 2 came, and Anna came into the living room and she said, what are you watching? I was like, oh, there's this guy in the States. It's about how the mind works. And she said, can I watch it with you? Now, here's the thing. She had never been interested in any of my work up until that point, and we've been together for nearly 20 years, okay? And I looked at her, I was like, if you want to. We weren't getting on like a house on fire, but I said, sit down and watch. And she did. And she changed right in front of my eyes. I mean, she was listening to George explain, using a metaphor, how human beings are living in this. These aren't George's words, this is my interpretation, right? So living in this almost like a virtual reality where we're living in a projection of the movies that we're creating inside our mind. Okay, we have a story and a script, and the senses bring this story alive, and it really feels like we're in the horror movie or the tragedy or the love story or whatever the experience is. And he was explaining that in his elegant, beautiful way that he has about him. And she changed. Boom. It was like a light bulb went on. She looked different. Tears were flowing. And she looked at me and she said, "You know, we're going to be all right." I was like, I haven't decided yet. But, you know, it was fascinating because I believed her. And I was so inside, even though I probably didn't show it, inside I was really hopeful from her shift. But at the same time, I was a little bit furious as well. I was like rewinding George's video, looking for the strategy. What technique did he use? Did he hypnotize her? I couldn't find anything. And I was like really perplexed by that. So that was my wife having a shift. And as a consequence of that, I stayed in the conversation on the online course and continued to look. And then it was about 3 months later for me, and I was making a cup of tea at home. And all of a sudden I had this wave of, I was furious, for want of a better description. That feeling was of fury at what had happened in our marriage, okay? And I'm making this cup of tea and I'm feeling really annoyed at Anna. Mm-hmm. And then it happened for me. Wow. I saw something. It was so simple that I laugh to this day about it. That was my first mini defining moment. And it was, oh my God, she's not even here. And I'm furious at her. She's not even in the house. So it can't be her that's making me annoyed. It's this virtual reality I was living in. I was creating this big drama inside my mind. And boom, when that happened, I got on a plane and I had to go and meet George in person.
Wow. Amazing. That's such an incredible story. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like that for me. Mine was the drip, drip, drip. There wasn't the big aha moment, but that's a wonderful story. Pretty amazing because I mean, you know, that can be an event that is for many couples is insurmountable.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so what a wonderful example of how you can come through the other side.
What's possible when we think all is lost. I think that realization that Anna had that she was living in a story and it was created out of some level innocently, thinking that was reality. And from there, it was a steep learning curve for both of us. We got to see that whenever we were both at each other or not in a good space, that we were creating that experience, or rather that experience was being created through us, and that we didn't have to react. And I mean, yeah, people start coming to us for advice about how relationship coaching. Who would have thought, right?
I know, but you know what? It's when you've been through something and that you've experienced the change. I mean, that's what makes you a great teacher is you've lived it, and you have that knowing that's, as you said, it's like so deep inside. It's not an intellectual knowing; it's a real knowing.
Yeah, it's a knowing. It was like, oh, so I had to go through this experience to wake up. Okay, fair dues, you know.
Yeah.
Something the universe dishes up its meal for you, and it's not always tasty.
Yeah, it was actually my my breakup of my marriage that helped me find my first book that was put me on this path, and that was about 11 years ago, 2009, and I my head was so full of stories and images and things like that were driving me crazy. And it was a book I saw in a bookshop at London Heathrow, and it was Stop Thinking, Start Living. And I was like, oh my God, please, because my thinking is killing me.
Yeah, I love that.
And that just set me on that path. But it was really, I'd say, in the last 5 years that I've really, really 4 to 5 years that I've really immersed myself in it, like 2016. But yeah, again, sometimes it's the most painful period of your life that is what wakes you up. And I'd been on the spiritual path too for many years, and psychology and everything in it. But when I came across this understanding, it was like, oh, I mean, it really is the missing link, you know.
It is, absolutely. And I'm so grateful. I mean, who would say that they were grateful for that experience in a marriage, okay, an affair, right? So, and to look back and go, do you know what? I'm really glad that happened. Because not only is our marriage in a totally different place, in a good way, but as two separate, well, together as one, but I mean, we're sort of living our own lives and enjoying life in our own right, better than we ever have done, irrespective of each other.
Yeah.
The relationship with the children is better. Coaching's more powerful and impactful now.
I was going to ask you about that. How did you make the transition? Because you already had such a reputation, you know, as this sort of leader in the NLP community and everything. And how did you make that? How did you transfer over into the three principles?
Well, it was difficult.
Yeah.
If I was a lawyer, it would have been easy. But I wasn't. I was already teaching people how to coach, or NLP coaching, life coaching, executive coaching. Doesn't matter the wrapping you put around it, but I was teaching models, theories, and ideas, and it was part of my journey. And I had to work out how to transition. So it wasn't a sort of just switch it, like George, for example. He just went, that's it, I'm switching. And he did say to me on many occasions that I'd be conflicted if I didn't switch. And I was thinking, what does he know? Yeah, he knew. And it took me about 5 years before I quit teaching NLP in the room. Still have my old school online courses. People still are searching for NLP. And I don't teach it in the room. And what I do like about people coming in via that route, sometimes it's a nice gentle way of introducing them to the principles. So we're attracting many people still looking at NLP. And because of my experience, it's quite easy to demonstrate that, hey, you can use techniques and models, and that's all very well, but it's really probably not the most, from a coaching point of view, impactful. And I can see that now.
Yeah.
You're teaching someone solid foundations about how they experience the world.
Exactly. It's the system behind all of that. I mean, I say, you can still do things you enjoy. And I think there's certain modalities that I've, come across it throughout my life that are still interesting and fun and bring joy. But the foundation, what's underneath that, how the system works, how we as human beings create our reality is fundamental.
That's right. It makes it so much easier as well for a coach. I mean, carry the encyclopedia of models and techniques with you, or just a simple understanding that too good to be true sometimes when you think about it, right?
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember when I sort of made the transition from regular coaching, I was like, oh my gosh, I better offer them money back, because some people I was in the process of a program. And as I started to shift, it was like, I'm going to have to hit pause here and introduce something new.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit with you and you feel that I've taken you on the wrong path prior to this, then I'll give you your money back. Nobody wanted their money back.
Yeah. That happened to me. I was running a master practitioner training, and I'm not sure the number of people that were signed up. I don't know, it was a couple of dozen people. And they paid quite a bit of money to be there. And I remember standing at the front of the room. It's pretty much the day that I decided that I didn't want to teach in this present moment NLP or hypnosis. Happy for people to do online old school work and then introduce them to the principles. But in room training, I was conflicted. And I remember standing in front of the room saying, look, guys, you've signed up for a master practitioner program. I will teach all of you the syllabus, but I'd rather I taught you something different. Now, some of you might think, well, that's not fair, and you want your money back. And others might take a chance and trust me that what I'm going to share with you will take your investment and amplify it in a way you couldn't possibly imagine in terms of the value you're going to get from what I'd like to share with you. So it's your call. But I need 100% unanimous votes. So hands up if you want me to teach you the master practitioner syllabus. Nobody put their hands up. Like, how did that happen? I thought it was going to be a riot. And I just spent 5 days with them sharing everything that I possibly could that I thought would be helpful from my journey with George and Linda and Barb and all the wonderful mentees like you and others that I have had the pleasure of spending time with, including Michael Neal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It doesn't surprise me, though, because I think there's something that just lights up when you come across this understanding. And even if people don't know what it is, they sense something and they're like, I want some of that. You know? Yeah,
it happened twice on part of that transition period. The first time was actually before I even met George. I'd seen him online, and I got to the end of a trainer's event. So I'd trained trainers of hypnosis. And one of the guys came up to me and he said, what's next? I said, well, you've done everything. He said, what's next? I said, well, I haven't got anything. He said, well, come on, Dave, you could create something. So this was at about 1 o'clock, and they were taking an hour for lunch, and they were all sitting down having their lunch. And I just sat there and pretty much on a little bit of card, I created an introduction to the principles. So that was my motivation to get on a plane, and ended up being mentored by George. But I needed to learn more, deepen my grounding. I said at the end of lunch, I stood up in front of the room. I said, look, my personal relationship was on the cliff edge. And you're all at the end of your journey in terms of NLP and hypnosis, and you can go out and you can become, carry on coaching, use these modalities. But one of you, and I pointed to the guy, I said, came up to me at lunchtime and said, have I got anything else? Let me just say that I've come across something and I really don't have a clue what it is, but I know it'll change your life because it's changing mine. So I'm prepared to put on a training in that. Someone put their hand on it. I said, yeah. They went, what's the syllabus? What's on the agenda? I said, I have no idea. And you know what? I sold out in about 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness. That's so great.
Because you're right. It was, they felt something.
It's true. And you know what I find? I'm sure you found this too, when I used to work with clients, I could, in coaching, I felt like I could help them feel better, but I didn't really know where the door was. It wasn't like, well, open this door and you can have this amazing life. I could just have you feeling better. And when I came across the principles, not only did, as you said, coaching become so much easier, but it's like, hey, look at this. There's a door over there and you can go through it onto the other side. And it's just so makes our job easier. They see in us the confidence and the experiential that we've been through, the experience rather, that changed our lives. And it's not that we changed. We just looked in the opposite direction instead of looking outside of ourselves all the time. And we have to become something. It's like, no, you already are. It's there.
Yeah, and I see that in my clients now, which I didn't see it before.
Yeah.
I didn't see that deeply. And meeting George for the first time, and then being fortunate for him to say, come on, I'll take you on a journey, which, I mean, I'll be grateful to the day I die for that opportunity. Yeah. My wife Anna was saying, you got to do it, it's George, because she loves George, right?
We all love George.
Yeah, everyone loves George.
And Linda.
So, yeah, and I came back from the professional retreat, which was, my sort of, the 4-day retreat that we assist on now. And I remember at the end of that, he suggested doing a menteeship with him, becoming an apprentice. Mm-hmm. And I and ahed. I was really excited at the opportunity, but when I walked in the door, came back from Seattle, because I'm in London, or just outside London, Hertfordshire, I said, oh, it's, big investment. I'm going to be away from the business, flying to and fro the States, every few weeks. And it'll probably be for a long time that I'll keep going back. And financial investment as well, away from the kids. And she was like, why are you even asking?
Wow, how amazing.
So that was really good, because Anna obviously had an experience, so she was behind this all the way. Then the transition took place slowly but surely. Loving life really slowed down. Right now, it's amazing the feelings that I experienced that I didn't even know existed, really, or I'd forgotten at least.
Exactly. Well, we have actually come to the end. I could sit here and talk to you all day, David. You know that.
Have we come to the end, really? Wow, time flies, doesn't it?
It does. But that was just incredible. And so for people listening on the podcast, can you just give your website so they...
Yeah, sure. It's going to be updated soon, but at the moment it's David Key, as in doorkey.com.
Perfect. Nice and easy. Well, it was so lovely seeing you again. I miss seeing you in person. So when we're allowed to get on airplanes again and travel, I'd love to see
hug. I'm so grateful we had that opportunity in February at the Pranskys to actually not have that social distancing. So let's hope this time next year it'll be gone, done and dusted, and we can move back into the new. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, take care. It's lovely seeing you again.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at Adey-Jones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.